I think we've talked loads about Spalletti, and I think I would only be repeating myself. Anything I could say about him, and my feeling that perhaps he's been the opposite of what they need in terms of, I think he always amps them up when sometimes they need to be dialed down. I think there are players there individually who I'm disappointed with. Zielinski, again, I talked about last time, has been one of them. Zielinski, I think, was so good at the start of the season, hasn't been recently, and unfortunately, again, I do tend to bring that back to Spalletti and put it on his doorstep. But I think Insigne is going to walk away from this moment with clearly huge regrets. It's written all over him, right? He's going to walk away from his last season at his boyhood club feeling like it could have been the most glorious send-off, like it could have been the biggest, most amazing thing. But I think the whole club is going to leave this season racked with that sort of regret, because the fact is, it's just not that good of a Serie A season in terms of absolute quality at the top. It's been quite an entertaining season. It's been enjoyable. It's a close race. But there is not a team in this group that anyone's going to remember as a great team. And
I agree.
And in that season of all seasons, I think this Napoli squad, player for player, is good enough to be more. And I think that Spalletti ultimately carries the responsibility for that, even while I can accept what you're saying, Mina, that look, there's been Ancelotti there, there's been Gattuso there. Nothing that different happened. But I think that you can only judge each manager on a season-by-season basis. Maurizio Sarri didn't win the title, but he did something extraordinary with a group of players. He took them to 91 points. Ancelotti inherited a group that was sort of had some similarities there, and I think that was complicated because, you know, it's not easy to follow that job. Actually, it's not easy to take a group that someone else has taken to 91 points and carried on. He tried to change some things. I don't know. Maybe he made wrong decisions, but I also think maybe he's not the right manager for that group. I think that Ancelotti is doing so well, in my opinion, with what he's got at Real Madrid. But I think part of that is his ability to just sort of take all of the sort of brilliant players and remind them they're brilliant without having to necessarily hone everything in the way that Sarri had done. Gattuso, for me, has his limitations as a coach. I think he did some things better than he was given credit for, but he just isn't a great tactician. And Spalletti, sure, his tactics broadly, I think, are okay. Although I say that, and I often want to give him credit as a tactician, and I think he does some things very well. It's not easy with any group of players to hold possession as well as Napoli do. But I've been saying all season, if you're that good of a tactician, why do I always look at Victor Osimhen and think he's like apart from the rest of your team? Why don't I think he's part of the unit? So, yeah, unfortunately, well, you can sort of write the story that it's every manager the same story. To me, it's still a Spalletti issue.
Look, there's been a lot of discussion this week about who is a good tactician and who isn't. I'm like on several WhatsApp groups, and it's usually me arguing with a bunch of journalists about whether or not Ancelotti is a good tactician or is Spalletti a good tactician. And those have been a major topic for our chat group in the last week. You know, for me, there are a few things in football that I don't forget, like Tele Santana's Brazil in 1982. You know, like these are the type of like coaching and styles of play that, you know, really stick with you. And Spalletti, his Roma with Totti as a false number 9 is just something that I thought was magnificent. You know, it was magnificent. And I feel like after that, I've always thought of him as being this amazing coach. But I think that what we always fall is that we think it's either you value a coach a lot or you don't value a coach a lot. But coaching is so much more than just a guy with a great bunch of tactics and patterns of play. Because if there is only that, then Pep Guardiola would have won everything, right, in the last few years. But as it stands, ever since he left Barcelona, he's reached only one final. And this is despite spending billions and having some of the best players at Bayern and Manchester City. He's only reached one final with both of those squads, you know. And I think that goes to show that football is more than just tactics. It is also about developing leaderships and leaders and having like management on board that is helping you to sort of live out what it is that you're trying to achieve and working together as a stable unit. It is also having the right conditioning. That could be physical conditioning, that could be mental conditioning. One of the reasons why Italian football for me is and remains in my head when it comes to the details the very best is because it did focus on every detail. It was always about that extra 10% that you can put that maybe others don't have. It's the extra 10% is the better scouting. Extra 10% is the better conditioning. You know, at the end of the day, Ventrone, who's with Antonio Conte right now, Antonio Pintus, who's with Carlo Ancelotti right now. These were all guys that came from Italian football. You know, Atalanta, I always forget his name, but the fitness coach, their fitness coach, won all their awards because of the remarkable fitness that they had over the last few years. Obviously, now there are question marks being asked because they've suffered so many injuries, but it's always that extra. What can you do more? What are the details that you do more? And with Napoli, that's why I say that it can't be the coach, because they can't be experiencing this many problems all the time. So is it and obviously we don't know everything, right? So is it a psychological issue? Is there too much being asked of a coach to do?